The Wests Tigers podcast is brought to you by the Wests Tigers Podcast Forum. Join the conversation today at weststigerspodcast.com.au.
It is the West Tigers podcast, episode number 454, a midweek edition of the West Tigers podcast, but running a little bit late. But hey, once again, we're the last game of the weekend, the big one, Campbelltown on Sunday afternoon. Of course, we'll talk about that game very, very soon. Nick is away in Queensland on holidays. Declan is celebrating. I meant to mention on the show the other day, Declan got engaged. So congratulations to Declan. Big move for Declan. Well done. And I thought with Jordan and Josh being here, I thought we might start on a slightly lighter note. I don't know if you guys caught the Benji press conference that went up on YouTube a little bit earlier this evening. But I watched it. I've got to say, he was a little bit testy, a little bit fiery, a little bit... not his usual calm self, but I think he's just finding his confidence. But something did make me laugh. And one of the journalists asked him, they were talking about injuries and players returning, and they asked him, "Where's Tiny?" And Benji's response was, he's inside. And then the journalist says, no, like, when's he coming back? And that did make me laugh. But yeah, he doesn't enjoy it was channeling his inner Wayne Bennett sometimes. But Josh, that's one of those situations. I'm sure that Benji would like to have it back. It was a bit of a blonder moment.
Oh, it's funny, I reckon Benji's trying to be very serious coach, and there's still a few moments when the young Benji comes out with funny moments. So yeah, it's good to see. I reckon he's really settled into the coaching this year.
Exactly. It reminds me of what Tim Sheens used to say about the players back in 05 and that, they keep me young, but they make me old. And now sort of Benji's right in the middle of that. Jordan has popped up, and I'm really glad to see that on the edition of the podcast with the latest time the West Tigers have been at 2 wins and searching for the 3. Are we finally going to get the monkey not off the Tigers' backs, Jordan, but off your back?
Well, as Nick gladly pointed out in the chat during the week, apparently it's my fault. And the last 17 attempts, I think we've tried to break this 3-game in a row curse. So I'd like to say it's been going on a lot longer before my ill-timed and ill-fated prediction. But it is definitely a cloud that is hanging over my head that I would surely like to see, because I need to see the sun again.
To be fair, Jordan, when you made that prediction, it was a bold move, tipping 1 win in a row for the West Tigers, let alone 3. That was a very lofty goal.
It was a bit, and we actually jagged a couple towards the end of that part of the season. So I was partially right, and technically with the bye, I'd like to maintain my ability to say that we won 3 in a row, but in the end, it's not counted in certain circles. But I'm hoping this Sunday it'll be the case, because we actually have a chance to make a good run over the next few weeks with who we play. So continuing it against Newcastle would be good.
Yeah, we've got Broncos next week, and Luai and Taylor are expected back for that game. But 17 attempts. It's pretty unbelievable, Josh, when you think about it, that a professional sports team has got to the edge of just 3 in a row 17 times and fallen.
Well, having watched most of those seasons, it's almost unbelievable that we won 2 in a row 17 times. I think more than that we fell at the third. I did hear today, I think it was the 2023 season, we got the wooden spoon. We only won 6 games, and all 6 of them were pairs of 2 in a row. So, look, and it comes down to having a team that has the concentration and willingness to kind of come out every week and back it up. And I think obviously we didn't have that in previous years. As Benji said, though, those years are gone. Those teams are forgotten. We have a different team this year, and I think they've showed it so far. Will we win the 3rd in a row this week? I definitely hope so. I think it's going to be a tough game against the Knights, but we are at Campbelltown, and I think we do need to try and make that a fortress along with Leichhardt, especially as more games will be moving there. So this is our chance to start the season off strong. There should be a big crowd out there on Sunday. So I think 3 in a row is coming for Jordan.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you hope so. I would like to think that every week you hope so that we're going to win, but there is some scar tissue there. There is some trauma, some past trauma. So, I mean, here's the situation: we're coming up for 3 in a row. We're going to have a home crowd sellout. They're missing their 2 best players. We're starting as favourites. Jordan, we've been here before. I'm nervous.
Me too. I'm more confident this week than I was against Parramatta, but Newcastle are playing a very expansive game of football, one that may trouble us if they're going to throw it around, and it will definitely test our defensive structures, especially on the edges. But I would like to think. I just hope we don't start slow. Newcastle is the kind of team, especially from what we've seen, we don't want to be giving them that 10-point lead, because they have some space and they have pace and stuff and ability to punish us long distance if we do give them a head start. So we need to start strong.
They're a funny team, aren't they, Josh? I don't know how much you've seen them, but I've seen a few of their games this year, and they're kind of like, as I said on the pod last week, I think they're beatable. I'm not overly scared about them, but then they're also the sort of team that is getting results, and that's through resilience, sticking together. They seem to be pretty well connected, despite the fact that they're missing their 2-star players. So the unknown quantity of them sort of scares me a little bit.
Yeah, and look, I think they've made a really good start to the season. I think Justin Holbrook's obviously made a big difference down there. Getting rid of Adam O'Brien seems to have worked for everyone. It's an interesting side. I think their forwards are their weakness. I think their front rows are okay, but their back row isn't great. And their bench is fairly weak. But I think their outside backs with Dom Young, Dane Gagai, and the way Fletcher Sharp's been playing. And it's not, I think one of the things that makes them really hard to play against is that they're not your standard team or playing standard shapes and kind of things. I think, a little bit I was more confident against a side like Para, who play fairly consistent shape. But the Knights football is unusual football. It's not like you can go, right, we'll go here and everything will be fine as long as we're consistent in doing it. They do weird things to get tries. And I think, because Fletcher Sharp's not your classical halves player. Sandon Smith is a kind of more a hooker half. Fletcher Hunt, the fullback, does some interesting pieces. And their backs, I said, Gagai and Dom Young especially, kind of a players who can create interesting shapes and interesting trouble for teams. So I think a lot of it will come down to our outside backs being able to defend on that side. I'm probably happier with Skelton in there against Dom Young than I was Luke Lally against Dom Young. So
yeah, we'll talk about Skelton in a minute. I guess Jordan, what Josh is sort of saying, what I'm picking up there is they're a little bit unorthodox. They're a little bit sort of uncoordinated, and that can sometimes be hard to coach against.
Definitely. Yeah, if teams can throw things out, and it's not even necessarily being uncoordinated, it's just getting the bounce of the ball. Like there were 2 tries against the Raiders last week that it was just purely they got the right bounce. Like one literally bounced into Fletcher Sharp's hands, and sometimes you just you run with the gauntlet of luck, and at this point in time they're just getting it. But the unorthodox style that is hard to coach against. Structure and set plays you can coach against. You can sort of kind of come up with plans, but if they're getting that bounce of the ball just off sheer luck, well, you can't prepare for that. But we're going to have to take away Fletcher Sharp's time. A lot of teams seem to be sort of, because they don't know a lot about his game, they seem to be hanging off him and letting him make a decision first and then adjusting their defence to it, which is not good because he's got the pace and he's got the hands to punish teams who hold back.
I shouldn't be criticising anybody, but the Knights have got some shocking haircuts as well. Like they seriously need a barber up there at the Newcastle Centre of Excellence. Getting off to a good start, Josh, I think it's so important. We can't do that again.
There's only so many times you can come back from kind of 10 or 12 nil down. And I think We talked about it last week, and we again gave away 10 points. But this week, I think at home at Campbelltown, we've really got to come out firing. One, to kind of bring the crowd into the game with us.
Yeah.
And two, as you said, you can't keep coming back. Like we can't. I mean, while our bench has been coming on and making a big difference, and I did hear in that 10 minutes before halftime and after halftime this week that we've scored 47 points to nil. So been doing that, but you can't rely on that to happen every game. And so I think we've got to come out and do better in that first 15, 20 minutes. So.
Which is a big turnaround from West Tigers over the last few years, where we've really struggled end of the first half, start of the second half. We've conceded points and conceded. So maybe that's an indication, Jordan, of how much better and how much more thrust we're getting off the bench.
Yeah, there was an article earlier in the week said that in the 10 minutes before and the 10 minutes after half time, we've outscored teams 46-0. So, and they seem to attribute that a lot to when Royce Hunt and Sione Fainu come on. And we do get a bit of a kick and a bit of a momentum boost when those two come on. I think Royce Hunt in his limited minutes has actually been invaluable. He is doing the go forward. He's play the balls. That's actually one thing I don't think a lot of people. He's quick play the balls. He's been getting up and getting that ball away, and it's just giving the likes of Appy and our halves the extra time they need against tiring defenses. So yeah, it's great to see that. Everyone used to say death taxes and a tried before half time were almost certainties, but we've just got to curb the points now in the opening stages of the game. Like, we can wear teams down. We're showing that. We're wearing them down, and we're definitely fitter. But we need to start stronger.
Something that is also different in that it's very sort of unusual for West Tigers to lose a player and have a really good replacement lined up and ready to go. But the loss of Lily, being disrespectful, but I didn't lose any sleep, Josh. I think we feel exactly the same way on this topic. But Skelton, I mean, I reckon that's a plus.
Oh, I think that's an improvement, but also I think it's an improvement when you're coming up against Dom Young. Like, Dom Young's 6'7", Luke's about 3'4". So I think even if Luke's been playing well, that matchup isn't great for us in general. I think Giral is big, he's strong, he'll charge out of the back. I mean, that one game he did come on and play 70 minutes and made 200 meters earlier in the season. I think also he'll be champing at the bit to get out there and put on a good show. I think that I feel better about that edge, but I still think it's, against Gagai and Dom Young to have Hamasi and Giral is still an area of risk and weakness for us. Boys have just got to get out there and do their job, and they've got to communicate well. I think that's been probably the challenge on that side is Luke was coming in and Hamasi wasn't going in as far. I think that's somewhat to do with age and experience around both of them and with Madden inside them, but they have to communicate really well, especially with Gagai there. I think he's very dangerous and very experienced, obviously.
Yeah, he's also can put on a pretty good game against us. He's one of those players that sort of, it's the what's the guy that plays for the Gold Coast? AJ Brimson scenario where he plays at a 7 every week but finds a 9 against West Tigers invariably. But Jordan, further to Lily coming out and Skelton going in, I mean, there's the potential. You've also got Stafford Toa and Taylor May to come back as well. Like just when we think the backs are a bit of a problem, you kind of feel like there are some options there if everybody can get fit and healthy, and we can continue to, win when we've lost a few players.
Yeah, definitely. We've got competition for spots, which is something we're not used to. I actually think it's going to be really hard on another side of things is to move Taruva. Like, you got Taruva and Tino working and Tavana working well on one side. You're going to have May come back next week, which I would assume he'll come straight in. Macassini will go to the wing, which means Laulili and Skelton will both be, in the wings waiting to see what happens. But do you move Taruva out of centre? I honestly don't think you do. I think you leave that side as it is. Tavana has shown he's an aerial threat, something we have lacked for a long time. That try he scored last week is exactly the kind of thing we need out wide, that option. And it made Parramatta nervous. It made them very nervous every time we went to that side. So, and he just has the ability to get up. But it's great to see the the competition for spots, but I think the more this goes on, I think Stafford Tower's position on the on the ladder for spots is going down and down and down.
I was just going to say, Josh, just with Tino, he's flown under the radar mostly. And he's only played 2 games, so I don't want to wrap him too much. But it wasn't just the aerial take; it was the getting the ball down to the ground. He's sort of one of those freaky sort of players. He does some amazing things.
Yeah, Air Tino. I watched him a few times in Jersey Flegg last year, and he did a variety of special things there too. And they were kind of that freakish up in the air. I think there was one where he leapt up one-handed, took the ball and kind of flicked it off for someone to score. He has something special. He's young, and I don't think any of us saw him being in first grade at this stage. And obviously, he talked about the other week that at the Christmas break he was almost kicked out.
Yeah.
But he's doing special things, as Jordan said. That's hard to kind of give away from a team, and I think it'll be interesting to see. It's amazing to think, a couple of weeks ago we were fairly sure our back line had kind of reached bare bones and everything was a challenge. And what it's actually turned into is actually we have a decent amount of depth and some real challenges for positions, which is again something unusual for the Tigers. So it's a really good sign for the season ahead.
Well, further to that, Patrick Herbert's been added to the bench. He's there in jersey number 19. Not sure if he's going to play, but had a good game in New South Wales Cup last week as well. So there's also somebody there who's a pretty good resource, I think, if needed. Probably unlikely, he'll probably fall down the pecking order to, as Jordan was saying, Lily and Skelton, if they're maybe not required or not picked next week, then, but he's still good to have. The forwards for the clash, our forwards, I mean, we know what we're going to get. Jordan, on the post-game show, I made the point, I think a lot of people have agreed, or a couple of people have agreed, we want to see more from Terrell May, more purpose in those runs. In terms of the starting pack, I can't really think of anything else we need to do different.
No, well, that's the thing. Like, we don't even get the chance to see Bunty Afoa because our forwards are doing their job. They're rolling up their sleeves. They're doing the hard work. Like, the biggest thing for me, especially with the forwards, Terrell May, I agree, with the ball, needs to show a bit more. I think he's sort of kind of just running and not looking for those offloads. We do have a couple of other forwards who are doing the offloads for us, but with the ball, he could definitely add more. Defensively, like that one where we stopped, was it Hopgood or Williams, who, when they knocked that ball on, the fact that Twall, May, Appy, Dewey were all scrambling to get back there to stop it, like that's the kind of thing you want from any football team. But yeah, our forward pack is really, really settled, which is something we have not had. And we don't, as I said, we don't even get a chance to see Bunny Afoa. I was actually really excited. He had the preseason of all preseasons by all reports. And as a personal experience with children, they got in the way and he didn't get his debut. So he's, it's really pleasing to see. Like, Seafarth is getting limited minutes, but the impact Sione and Royce, as we mentioned earlier, it's a really, really good balance. And I think forwards is where we'll win the battle against Newcastle, especially the starting pack.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's a shame. I'm kind of like, I would go for the firepower. I would pick Bunty. I know he's on the train and trial, and we'd need to upgrade him and get the dispensation for him to play. Maybe that's the reason why he's not playing, other than the fact that, as Jordan's saying, everything's nice and settled. But I'd still love to have him. I still want to see him and Hunt, Josh, tag teaming or going on at the same time. I think it would be pretty great.
Yeah, look, and over a season, 4 props aren't going to get you through 27 rounds. So, sorry, the dog just lost the plot in the background. 4 props aren't going to get you through 27 rounds. So I think we'll see plenty of Bunty, as there'll be injuries and suspensions and those kind of things over the year. I don't think you get all 4 through the whole year. The advantage I think Seafarth offers on the bench is that he can play lock, he can play back row. If you have Bunty instead of him, if Kai Pearce-Paul or Samuela Fainu need to go off, there's not really anyone who's a genuine back rower on that bench. So I think it's just that you don't really need an extra prop. Like 2 props is good, 3 props is probably excessive, especially with Latu kind of coming on in that middle role. Twal's playing 60 to 70. May's playing 60 to 70. There just isn't any minutes for a third prop in our side. But I think we'll definitely get to see Bunty. As you said, I'm excited. I think having him and Royce coming off the bench for a game would be great to see. And it's again a really good sign for our forward pack, the depth, and they're like the attack has been good from the forward pack, and obviously Royce and Sione especially off the bench. But I think what we've all been really impressed by is that in defence they're hunting as a pack and they're hitting blokes. They're not just tackling like actually hitting blokes. Their first up contact has been impressive.
Yeah, it's been a whole lot better. Just one more, Jordan, just talking about the halves and talking about depth. So Luai will be back next week. Look, most people probably have their idea of what's going to happen next week if everybody's fit and healthy. But it is a chance for Jock and Adam to show their wares and prove themselves and continue to grab those first grade spots, if that makes sense. Knowing, of course, that Dewey most likely is a player to come through, but it's an opportunity for Jock to show his wares.
Yeah, I'm really nervous in a sense to see what happens. Like if we come out and have a blinder against Newcastle and Jock especially orchestrates a lot of the attack and leads us to that win, Luai's going to come straight in. That's a given. We can understand that he's the $1 million man. He's the face of the new Tigers. So I wouldn't want to be Benji Marshall in that situation. I know what I would do. I know what I have always felt, and I know a lot of people know my position on Dewey. He has improved a lot this year. There were still things in the Parramatta game that I saw that as a half, especially having the 7 on your back, he made some poor choices. There was one in particular happened right in front of me. Their fullback was up, the line was up. We had the opportunity. All we had to do was kick it in behind. There was no one there, and he ran it on tackle 5 and got tackled with the ball.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that, and I think I'd actually get really, really excited to see Jock and Luai work together. I'd want to see that, and as much as I don't want to move Twal from 13, I would rather move Dewey there, put Twal back into the prop rotation, and really give Jock and Luai a chance. But I think it's going to be more of a case that Latu's going to be the odd man out, and Jock will go to 14, and we'll run with that for the time being.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, Twal you can move into the prop rotation. It doesn't change what we get. The only question, and we're putting the cart before the horse because we've got to get through this game. But I just wonder, Josh, if you were to move Dewey to lock and Luai comes back in, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. I just wonder how that would work.
Yeah, look, I'm very much that it's a Dewey and Louis kind of a halves combination.
Where's Huey?
Huey, yeah, that's it. Look, I think I'd keep him there. I think if I wouldn't want to move 12 from lock because I think he's been having an outstanding season, and I also think you say we can move him into the prop rotation, but then we just talked about how good our prop rotation's been, so then we'd have to move one of those guys probably out of the side to do that, which I think that's a lot of changes and movement from a side that's winning games. I do. It'll be interesting. I think Jock's been playing great. I think, as I said at the start of his kind of run, I hope he keeps playing great, and I hope he does fantastically. And he does bring a different game to the other two. But I think they've trained all off season for Adam and Jerome to be the halves. So I think that'll be the combination that goes forward. It'll be interesting, that 14 spot on the bench. Madden's obviously been in great form, but Latu, to mine, probably gives you a little bit more variation in that he can play in the middle, and he's kind of been coming on at that lock role in that last 20. So I think that kind of maybe gives him a little flexibility. I hate to say it, but I think Jock will probably find himself either in jersey 18 or in New South Wales Cup. But I think, also there's a chance that Adam gets rested. I mean, he's clearly still got that groin injury. I wouldn't be hugely shocked if next week, if Jerome comes back, that they have Madden and Jerome for a week and Adam just takes a week off. That gives Benji a little bit more time to make the decision. But I think it's more just that Adam can probably do with the break for that groin injury. So
yeah, and it also creates a situation where Madden's playing against his former team as well.
Yeah.
Not that matters that much, but
it helps.
It helps a little bit. Apparently, the Broncos chipping in like 150,000 a year for Jock Madden. I don't know how true that is, but
Great
Magical.
business by Richardson, if that's the case.
Shane Richardson, genius.
Yeah, well, we've got some Richo news in a moment or two.
Mm.
If you're watching this on YouTube, by the way, hit the subscribe button. I always forget to remind you all. And you can also, if you don't want to look at our ugly mugs or handsome mugs, depends on how you feel, you can also listen to the podcast now on YouTube as well. So you can just have it on in the background. You don't have to look at us. A few rumours around just on player signings. We'll circle back around for predictions on the Knights game in a minute. So we know that Luke Leilua is going to Perth, and we've all had suspicions that Kit's going to Perth as well, and that Maverick Guy is going. But I also read that Heath Mason might be going to the Perth Bears as well. Jordan, where do you sit with Heath Mason? Would that be a loss?
No, I have no issue with that at all. Is he injured currently? I haven't put out a thing for a while, but he hasn't been in New South Wales Cup or around the squad or even in the photos from what I've seen. So,
He is back this week in Cup, Jordan. So
he is back.
back
Okay,
this
cool.
week, yeah.
Okay, I hadn't seen the Cup team list. So, yeah, he it's not a loss. I feel for Heath. He's a very versatile. He's a Timu Connor Watson at the moment, but he has the potential to bump up. But no, I think he probably adds a lot of versatility for the Bears. He'll get more opportunity over there. And between Maverick Guy, Kit, and Heath, I think we're clearing a bit of dead wood out of our top 30 that we can actually upgrade either players who are showing themselves like Tavana and whatnot, and then bring in some additional players who are just going to complement our squad for 27.
I don't know if the Bears have bought anybody else, but if this is their recruitment strategy, Josh, I'm worried about them.
I was going to say, I don't think Heath Mason's going to Perth. I think he's going to North Sydney Oval because I can't imagine him being in first grade next year, even at Perth. But it isn't a great looking roster there at the moment, but we'll see how that progresses. But yeah, I mean, Luke, Kit, Heath Mason, Mav Guy, it feels like they're building out a good North Sydney Bears reserve grade side, or an okay North Sydney Bears reserve grade side. Kit's not been cited this year, and I think he's had concussion issues. I hope he's okay. But yeah, look, I don't think any of them are a huge loss. I mean, none of them are really what I would think a first grade side. They're depth players, and I look at some of the other guys in reserve grade, and I'm not sure I'd have Heath Mason at full strength in our reserve grade side even at the moment. So, yeah, I think if you can get a contract with the Perth Bears, you should take it.
100%. There's also a rumour doing the rounds that Buller has re-signed with the West Tigers on a long-term deal. It's just a rumour. What's that face for, Josh?
Just happy, Joel.
Happy, okay.
Very excited.
It seemed like a cynical. We shouldn't even repeat that rumour, but that's the rumour.
No, very excited.
Maybe you've heard it here first. Maybe. New dressing rooms at Campbelltown. Sean Mealycamp saying we're going in big in MacArthur. Hopes of big boon and participation numbers, etc., and also hopes of getting a centre of excellence open and out there built and comparative to Concord. Jordan, it is your neck of the woods. It is your stomping ground. The future is not fully in Campbelltown, but gee, there's a massive potential out that way.
Definitely. The thing that I've loved, like I actually was at one of the Q&As with Sean Mellencamp a few weeks ago, and that was one of the key points I brought up is, as a community coach myself, it's disheartening to have a team of, 15, 16 kids, and I would say, 3 or 4 of them are Tigers fans. South Sydney have been encroaching on this area for a long period of time. They do a lot of work with the community teams, and they try to put their stamp on this area. Bulldogs did for a period, but they seem to have disappeared. But this year, last year with the ambassadors for each club was great. This year they've done it again. The thing I've noticed over the last 24, 48 hours is you can't get off an exit in the Southwest at the moment without seeing a Home of West Tigers banner.
Right, okay.
Nice. Which is great. I noticed them this afternoon and a couple the other day. You get off at Narellan Road, Campbelltown Road, Brooks Road. They are everywhere, and they are making the area, the street signs. They've replaced the street signs in the Lumia area with Tigers symbols and they've gone out of their way to really start making the area a home, especially with 2029 being the fact that we will play 7 games there and 4 games at Leichhardt. it will be great. All the kids' grand finals are played at Campbelltown Stadium. So any junior football, if you make a grand final, you play it at Campbelltown Stadium. So matching that with your heroes, having your heroes play at that ground on a regular basis, where you can make your first, real rugby league memories as a junior. It's important. It is extremely important. And I credit them at the moment. They are doing a lot of work to try and get community clubs on board. And then you would have seen the Junior League Appreciation Round this week. They've got the video up with those young ones interviewing players, and all the players are wearing either Inner West or Southwest Junior Rugby League Club jersey, which is amazing to see. It's important because I've had kids where they'll go, I saw such and such wearing an East Campbelltown Eagles jersey, for example, and they love it. They eat it up, and it can turn a kid into a Tigers fan overnight.
It was an interesting stat. Only 6 juniors from the MacArthur have played 100 games or more for the West Tigers over 25, 26 years. That's unbelievable that's all we've been able to, unfortunately, a lot of the best ones we've lost over the time. So not just propagating them, but keeping them. And I'm really glad to hear about all the signs, and it's actually starting to look a little bit more tigery. That's fantastic. I was going to make the point, Josh, that a lot of people say, "Oh, Campbelltown, it's a graveyard for West Tigers, and there's no atmosphere." But I think if you go in the old days when Penrith was struggling and there was 2,000 people there, it felt like a graveyard for Penrith. Like at Penrith, I mean, it's about winning. If you're competitive, everything changes. If you're winning out there, we've got to start getting the wins.
Yeah, and look, I know our record hasn't been that great over the last few years there, or over our time there, but our record just hasn't been that great anywhere. I don't think, and yes, we've had a good record like Leichhardt, but we do need to make Campbelltown a fortress. And I know the players are really keen on that this year to try and uplift that. You can tell the club's making much more of an effort over the last year and a half, and that's, as you said, fantastic to hear, Jordan, about all of that. And next year, with Leichhardt out of action for the year, we'll be playing a lot more games there. So if we want to make the finals next year, we have to start winning at Campbelltown. If we want to make the finals this year, we have to start winning at Campbelltown, but especially in the future. I love the new dressing rooms. I saw that video. I think that's fantastic. And we have to get more of those juniors. And also, I think we've kind of lent into, well, they're not necessarily our juniors. They are Western Sydney guys over the last couple of years, though, with the Mays and with Luai and Tino, to really kind of try and get ourselves heading in that Western Sydney way. So they may not all be juniors, but they are from the west of Sydney. So I think we've made definite steps towards that. I hear the crowd's going to be very good this weekend. So, and I know over the last couple of years we've had better crowds there, and that helps. Obviously, the stadium renovations, I think, will make a difference, and obviously a better stadium helps. So I think it's all heading in the right direction. We've just got to start winning, as you said there. So hopefully it all starts this Sunday.
Just a point on I'll give credit to Campbelltown Council as well, because one thing that I think has hurt with crowds and things has been ticket prices. The $75 family offer that they've been offering, credit to the council for coming to the party. They know how important it is to have a team out this way. The problem with, Campbelltown, for example, is the best place to put a boutique stadium like Combank. You've got the station on one side, you've got the buses on the other, you've got the Leagues Club next door, and there's
a bit of space.
Yeah, and there is ample parking. There is ample parking, and there would be ability to build more. The ability to have that area as a fortress, as Josh said, I like that word, because we do. We need a fortress. Leichhardt has been that spiritual home, and we can lift it because of how close the crowd is. When Campbelltown gets the facelift that it's going to get, and we can have a bit better facilities and, everything else that people want when they go to games, we have that ability to turn that into somewhere that teams do not want to travel to.
It'd be good if we could incorporate just into the stadium just something a little bit more tigery, like a big tiger mascot or something that makes it look like our home. It's not to say that Leichhardt isn't, but Campbelltown looks very generic to me when I look at it. It kind of looks like anybody could play there.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, no, that's I agree with that. That's completely fair. There is no colour to it. There is nothing to give it a personality that it is a Tigers home ground. You do feel that when you walk into Leichhardt that you are walking into a Tiger territory. So I completely agree with that, and I hope they will incorporate that whenever they when they do the renovations.
Yeah, and I think those new dressing rooms are a good first start. I mean, I think I saw in the article on that it was the first time they'd kind of been a Tiger themed dressing room. You see them; it all is very West Tigers in the dressing rooms, and big logo on the floor and Tigers colours across the board. So I think that's a good start, and hopefully that's kind of a first step towards making that feel like the West Tigers home ground. And then the club come to its part of being out there more, of doing more, of hoping to build a centre of excellence, of just playing more games there. So look, it's a long way away from me. So but I think that is the future of the club, as long as there's kept some balance. But I think that is the future of the club, to be most of our games out there.
Don't mean to be negative, but Richo, as the aforementioned Richo, Shane Richardson, cleared of any wrongdoing. So all I can say is well done, Holman Barnes Group.
No surprises there.
Yeah. How to get rid of the best best rugby league administrator we've seen in 30 years. But anyway.
And paid out today, I believe. That was the cleared and then paid out. So there's a whack of cash that could have gone into those Campbelltown juniors. So
what I think there'll be a news article or a podcast with him involved soon. Now that he's been paid out,
I'd imagine so.
Here's the beans. We're going to spill them.
Yep.
Benji spoke a lot in the press conference about resilience. Resilience got us home in the game against Parramatta, but he also said that the Knights are showing a fair bit of resilience as well without their two best players. What are our predictions for the game on Sunday? Jordan, are you leaning towards a narrow win, a narrow loss? How do you see
I don't think my heart could take another narrow win.
Yeah, no golden
points. That's why I shaved my head so you can't see the greys. This game's tough. Like it never in my thought would you say after the first 5 weeks that I think our toughest test of the year was going to be the Knights. But in saying that, I think it will be a tight game, but there will still be plenty of points scored. I think we're probably going to look at something like 28-24.
To the home side.
To the home side. I will predict the home side. I was trying to maybe avoid that because I seem to be banned from making predictions. So
the ban will be lifted totally if that ends up being correct. Josh?
Look, as much as I've enjoyed making fun of Jordan and his three wins in a row, I think the Tigers will scrape home like everyone else. I think it could be close. I think 24-18 to the Tigers. We've been really well this year in defence. We haven't, kept everyone kind of to 20 points or under, and I think we'll continue that. I think we'll just get there, but I am very nervous about this game. I think having to win 3 in a row has obviously not been a strength for us. The Knights outside backs do worry me, and especially Fletcher Sharp there in the halves as well. But I think we'll get home. So feeling like the forward pack will get us there this week.
One side of me, this side of me is saying we're going to win like 46-10, and that side of me is saying we're going to lose like 18-16.
We'll take the 46-10 side, Joel.
Yeah, your Jekyll and Hyde. I'm taking your Jekyll.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I hope the optimistic side of me is correct. Got to get a good start. That's the trick. Is staying in this game and icing those opportunities. But Newcastle's the side that worries me because of that unorthodox style. So we'll have to wait and see. Thank you, boys, and enjoy the day. And we'll reconvene Sunday night.
Thank you
very much, guys. Good luck.
Good luck.